Hello everyone, welcome to another episode for 10 for the Chairman. By the way, this is a background helmet from Wing Commander, I think 3, 4, yeah maybe 4, that Ben had from a long time, that Mark Day, who was one of the producers on Wing Commander 4, had sent Ben back when he was a teenager and not feeling well in hospital, and we actually just used it recently. I did a photo shoot for Wired. There will be an article about Star Citizen and what we've been up to in Wired in the near future, and we sort of took this in as one of the sort of props, and so Ben brought it out of storage, and now he asked me to sign it, so I signed it. But anyway, it's one of our background helmets back from Wing 4. So this thing is actually 20 years old, which is pretty amazing. Anyway, let's get to 10 for the Chairman. So for those of you who don't know, 10 for the Chairman is where I take 10 questions from subscribers and answer them to the best of my ability. I don't ask them to the best of my ability, I answer them to the best of my ability. And subscribers are the subset of our community, our backers, that contribute extra money every month to allow us to do enhanced community content. So this show, Around the Verse, we have Jump Point, which is a 50 to 70 page magazine that goes into depth on how we build ships, how we're working on certain game mechanics, sort of the Ask the Devs and a few other kind of inside CIG pieces that we do. Primarily we use all the subscriber money to finance sort of our enhanced community outreach. So thank you very much, subscribers, to allow us to be able to do this stuff, because I think it's one of the things that really sets Star Citizen apart from a lot of other games. So thank you, and let's get to asking or answering the questions. See, I tripped myself up there again. So the first question comes from General Jack O'Neill, who asks, any chance that certain rooms in our hangar can have a password to lock the door? This could keep prying eyes or other citizens off the gear or equipment in storage rooms when inviting others to join your hangar. Yes, so we're definitely going to have the ability to have security on doors or passcodes, or have them set to only sort of open for you versus open for someone else. So that's not something that will be in action for the very beginning of the social module, where you can invite other people to your hangar, but longer term it's definitely part of the plan. So we're planning to have sort of security lockdown. So like if someone boards your ship, you can lock it down. The people trying to board the ship, and there'll be sort of mini game where they're going to try to essentially open the door by encrypting or decoding it. So that is all functionality that we're planning on. We have this system which we call Ghost, which is a game object state machine essentially, that we're working on, that will sort of drive a lot of the logic of rooms, and rooms are in both spaceships and sort of environments like the hangars. And that sort of is a sort of logic rules for each one of the rooms that can do things like lock doors down, or you could put everything in an emergency state, and then the Ghost would be able to set everything to have flashing, blinking red lights and klaxons flying and all the rest of stuff. So we're actually very much planning to have that functionality, although like I said, it won't be day one, although you'll see some of this stuff that will be in action in Squadron 42. So next question comes from Furious, who asks, when our friends come to visit our hangar, will they have to download the music we are playing on our jukebox, or will it be stored elsewhere so they can hear it instantly? That is a very good question. Based on what I know of our jukebox functionality, it basically plays music off your local hard drive. So unless your friends have the same music you have, they probably aren't going to hear the music you're playing in your hangar. So I actually don't know of the specific implementation for that. I just know that the idea with it was to search your hard drive and pull out your music and then play it. So I think potentially you'd have to make sure you all have the same music, and then also I'm not sure if that aspect is getting serialized over the network, as in it may just be a sort of a local thing that you play locally, and when someone else has entered your hangar, they may not know what music's playing in it. So I'm actually going to check on that one, because that's actually kind of one of those sort of like details that probably no one thought of, but you actually do need to sync that over the network if it's going to work properly. And my guess is right now it won't, and it probably won't be in the first version of the social module if it isn't working this way right now, but that will be something that will be pretty trivial to do in a further drop. Okay, next question comes from Raytheon, who asks, would background radiation such as that from a star or a quasar interfere with readings? would I be able to utilize fighting the sun at my back to blind my opponent in the context of their radar rather than their eyes? So I would say that long term, definitely we're thinking about radiation or interference from sort of big celestial objects is actually part of aspects of the gameplay that's going to be in Squadron 42 that you guys will play at towards the end of this year. And so it will affect sort of scanning and radars and all the rest of the stuff. And so I think if you were in that sort of situation, you would basically, I mean, I'm not sure you literally the sun at your back, but it will be that kind of aspect. So there's certain areas like in Squadron 42, there's the coil. I think we've shown some concept art for that. And when you're in that, like your scanners, don't have nearly the same sort of range of penetration, and they can go high wire. And so there'll definitely be sort of areas that will affect what you read on your radar and what your scanners can penetrate. Next question comes from Xenion, who asks, is there a difference between military-grade and civilian-grade components and gear? If so, will military-grade equipment be more difficult to obtain and or be illegal to use without a particular permit or registration? So yes, I would definitely say military-grade and civilian-grade components would be different. I would say that military-grade will be much harder to obtain, and then perhaps depending on where you are, running around with some obvious military grade stuff may or may not cause some problems. That aspect of it, we haven't sort of decided of, quite what the fidelity of sort of the law enforcement would be. But definitely, generally you buy civilian grade components, and then sort of like a more sort of fancier upgraded weapon would be potentially military grade. It certainly would be more rugged, and would probably be harder to get and probably be more expensive. Okay, next question comes from Nostromo in 1977. Has CIG ever considered adding waste management to the persistent universe? This feature could broaden the economy by offering players a new role for transporting and disposing of space garbage. We haven't considered waste management per se, although obviously we have the Reclaimer, which is sort of reclaiming space debris and refining it back into materials that are useful. So that is a kind of waste management. We're definitely going to have hauling missions where you'll be taking big containers and some of the bigger ships you have, like the Hull C or something like that, where you'll be sort of doing some bulk hauling of goods. So quite possibly you could have a contract to haul a bunch of garbage from one place to another place. I'm not sure we'll consider waste management a full-time role at this stage of the game, but you never know in the future. But I think there would definitely be aspects that would pertain to sort of like, sweeping up debris, or monetizing it, or transporting scrap or debris or that kind of stuff. Okay, next question comes from Bucurel, who asks, will the larger ships such as the Starfarer or Orion have weapon racks so we can change our weapon loadout on the fly? If so, will my co-pilots be able to access the weapons I put on that rack as well? So I don't know, are we referring to weapon racks inside the ship, or are we referring to on the outside of the ship? So, basically I think that on all the ships you have, in terms of weapons, you probably won't be able to change them out on the fly unless it's something like a missile turret or something that like can fire different kinds of missiles. Internally on the bigger ships, there definitely will be sort of weapon lockers or weapon armory stuff that you can go and you can get, laser pistols or assault rifles from. So if that's what you mean in terms of having access to weapons on the rack, then yes, the people on the ship would have access to the weapons on the rack, assuming they were sort of cleared to sort of unlock the rack or get a weapon off it, which sort of speaks to the kind of the first question I answered in this show about being able to sort of lock or unlock doors. It's the same functionality. It will be using the same ghost system. Okay, next question comes from Kaputmachia. Will we be able to put a SIM pod on the larger ships so we can play Arena Commander during our long journeys? That's actually a pretty good question. I think potentially like on the bigger ships, like the Bengal, kind of just like it was in Wing Commander, you probably would be a sim pod or two that people could go and train in. I don't know whether it would make sense on something like the Constellation, but perhaps it could make sense on the 890. But it is a pretty cool idea. We actually haven't been thinking specifically about that, but nice suggestion. So I think that'll be something that we will consider. I could definitely, like I said, see it on the bigger ships, just like it was on Wing Commander. Okay, next question comes from Harper, who asks, given that there will be pets, will animals in the verse also have robust health and damage models, and will there be veterinarian parallels to the somewhat complex medical system planned for Star Citizen? Well, we'll definitely have the animals have a certain level of health and damage modeling the way that the humans are going to have. Not sure if we're going to have sort of a whole veterinarian system that's sort of parallel to the sort of medical system, and we're definitely not going to have your space dog takes a hit in battle and now he comes back with a cybernetic leg, at least not at the very beginning, because it's sort of well, we've only got so much time and so much people to do everything. So I would say that they would have a fair amount of detail in terms of like animation, their AI. You can they could take a hit in the leg or the body or whatever, but we're probably not going to have sort of they wake up and have a cybernetic replacement and have their own sort of hospital system just yet. So I think they'll either you keep them safe, or they'll at one point will go to doggy heaven, or cat heaven, I guess, as it were. All right, next question comes from Takomi, who asks, might we expect realistic ballistics that vary from caliber and load in FPS that change based on gravity? And if so, since we know that there are at least two gravity factors, 0G and Earth-like, is it presumed there'll be two types of ballistic curves for each load shell round? All right, so the projectile modeling in the game is full physical modeling. So we're actually in the process of sort of changing out some abstracted sort of damage point models for the projectiles to make it be more about velocity, mass, energy, kind of sort of size or volume cross-section of a projectile. So it's going to be much less about, okay, well, this weapon, this shell does 10 points of damage, this shell does 20 points of damage. It's actually going to be much more, okay, it hit at this velocity, it weighs this much, its cross-section's this much, and that will translate into an amount of kinetic energy that's imparted that will translate into a damage amount. Energy bolts will sort of be more about energy and obviously less about sort of the kinetic energy transfer, but still about, kind of the energy that's sort of poured into the laser bolt. And so because of that, the two benefits of that is that, like you could have multiple weapons that fire the same projectile, say a 20 millimeter shell or a 50 millimeter shell. And, it can have the same mass and everything, but since the two different weapons fire the same projectile at different velocities, then that projectile will do different amounts of damage upon striking whatever the target you're shooting at. And then not only that, but things like the gravity, whether it's 0G, Earth-like, or some other gravity, is all part of the simulation. So as we move it forward at the speed, it will be affected by other forces, which could include wind and all the rest of the stuff. So all that's kind of modeled in physics, and because we're having our projectiles all part of the physical simulation, all the forces that are effective, that basically affect everything else, will also affect projectiles, which is slightly different than the way that Crysis and those games have done it, because they sort of just did a ray cast and saying, did I hit or did I not hit? But we're actually firing real projectiles and moving them around in the physical space, so they have all the forces that act on them. So yes, essentially, you would probably have a slightly different trajectory path for bullet you fire in 0G as opposed to a bullet you fire in a sort of more Earth-like gravity, although they go fast enough over a short enough distance that in most cases it would not be discernible. But yes, we have much more realistic ballistics and physical modeling in the game than maybe a lot of other ones. All right, last question comes from Captain Jackson, who asks, there are currently several multi-crew ships that have the potential to allow for guests on board, beyond the maximum crew stations, such as Marines in the Redeemer and Patience on the Cutlass Raid. My question is, will there be any game balancing mechanics to restrict the maximum number of people on a ship, crew plus guests, such as life support, CO2 levels, etc.? That is a pretty good question, because I'm sure when we get the game live and we've got multi-crew going, we're going to get all the users spawn, get out of the ships and see how many people they can crowd into each ship, kind of like a clown car. Yeah, in terms of the amount of people aboard the ship, I'm not sure we're necessarily going to be limiting it beyond, kind of what the game servers can handle. And of course, in our game server situation, we still haven't determined how many we can have on one particular game server, but of course we'll save slots for your friends, for your enemies, for your people of interest, for some other people just flying around in the area. So if you say we could fit 50 people or 100 people in one game instance, it's unlikely it would let you fit 50 or 100 of them all being your friends. So then the real question is, if all 50 of them could squeeze into the Redeemer, which they probably couldn't, what would you do? Would you fly off somewhere? Could the Redeemer fly off somewhere, or would you not fly until you're down to the actual crew payload? And I think our rule would be, the people that can get on board, or they're sort of on board, and they probably won't block you being able to sort of fly around. Maybe they'll block you going to a jump point or something, I don't know. But we haven't really figured out sort of the restriction quotient for people on board ships. So I think out of the gate, we'll put the system up there, and then we probably won't restrict it, and then we'll see what happens, and then sort of manage it from there. But the ideas of life support, CO2 levels, and all that are really great sort of in-fiction ways to sort of manage the amount of crew and guests you have on a ship. So thank you for that suggestion, Captain Jackson. All right, that's it. That is the last of the 10 questions asked by the subscribers. Thank you very much, everyone out there that is subscribed that allows us to do this. I also thank everyone that's backed the game. You guys are allowing us to build a pretty amazing, a game with more features and depth than anything I could have dreamed I'd be able to do, anything that I've done before, and I think pretty much anything that anyone else is doing right now. It's pretty amazing to have everyone come together to sort of do a game that no publisher would ever have the guts to do. So you should pat yourself on the back for that. This is a busy time for us because we're working hard to get the FPS out. So Alphonics got heads down. Large parts of the rest of the company are also helping out on everything we'll need in the FPS, and then not that far afterwards there will be sort of the first social drop. And so both those I think are going to be pretty cool, and then later on we'll have multi-crew ships and Squadron 42, and then sort of the very beginnings of the Persistent Universe Alpha. So it's going to be a big year. We're working hard. We're really excited for you guys to experience some of the stuff that we're working on that you guys haven't seen yet. But I think it's going to be an awesome ride this year. And thank you for tuning in for 10 for the Chairman, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.